Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Hell's Unicorn here once again, and I just wanted to take this moment to give my eulogy of the dearly departed Senator Dick Luger of Indiana. For those of you who are not familiar with this particular individual, former, or soon-to-be former, I should say, Senator Dick Luger was among a number of trailblazers, including others such as Chuck Hagel and John McCain and Lindsey Graham, who have pushed neoconservatism with a moderate exterior in the Republican Party for the last several decades. And apparently he's been thrown out on his ass by the people of Indiana. Now, why was he thrown out on his ass? Well, there's a number of reasons for this. It could have been his support for TARP bailouts and maybe the NDAA, maybe the Patriot Act. There's a lot of really horribly unconstitutional garbage in Mr. Lugar's voting record, and I invite anybody to do a Google search on his voting record so you can get all the details on it. I'm sure it'll be a lengthy read. This guy was definitely in the Senate way too long, and proof against the idea of holding elections vis-a-vis the 17th Amendment for 6-year senators. But the real irony in all of this is, like a number of other elitist pieces of garbage, Mr. Luger is completely clueless as to why he was given the boot. And I will read this quote from Mr. Luger. "I don't remember a time when so many topics have become politically unmentionable in one party or the other. Republicans cannot admit to any nuance in policy on climate change. Republican members are now expected to take pledges against any tax increases. For 2 consecutive presidential nomination cycles, GOP candidates competed with one another to express the most strident anti-immigration view." I'm sorry, Mr. Luger. When has Ron Paul ever said anything that was anti-immigration? I mean, seriously, stop whining. But anyway, continuing. "Even at the risk of alienating a huge voting bloc. Similarly, most Democrats are constrained when talking about such issues as entitlement cuts, tort reform, and trade agreements." Mr. Luger, how many actual entitlement cuts have you voted for? Any meaningful ones? Apart from maybe joining an obvious coalition with Newt Gingrich and the others on welfare reform. A tiny drop in the bucket compared to the massively ridiculous foreign policy budget that we've had over the past decade and all of these other really gargantuan Midwestern farm subsidy schemes like the Farm Bill of 2001, aka George W. Bush blows hundreds of billions of dollars to pay farmers not to farm. But no. Mr. Luger is convinced that a bunch of crazy right-wing extremists are out to get him. Well, for what it's worth, Mr. Luger's opponent, a fellow by the last name Murdoch, doesn't appear to be much more than maybe another Sarah Palin wolf in sheep's clothing, another fake Tea Party guy. So out with the old dick, in with the new dick, so to speak. But there is a little bit of satisfaction in removing the old dick from office, even if it's a simple case of the king is dead, long live the king. So feel free to discuss. With prudence to myself and benevolence to all of you, good evening.